Tommy Davis from the Church of Scientology International.
Tommy, could you talk about your decision to hire investigative reporters to look at the coverage of the St. Petersburg Times? What inspired that?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I think we just took a playbook from the media. Media pay reporters all the time to investigate things, so we thought that it warranted some investigation, so we hired some reporters to investigate something. It's pretty straightforward in that regard. I think the other thing to say is that we were interested in an independent viewpoint on the reporting that had been done. We definitely saw deficiencies just from journalistic standards. Aside from our objections to the distortions and the lies that were published. We just thought, hey, look, let's have a look at this from the standpoint of an independent review in terms of the journalism of it, and that was sort of how it came about. But yeah.
Tommy, what specifically did you ask them to do?
Well, here's a couple of things. One thing is that the church has a publication, Freedom Magazine, which is an award-winning publication, and it gets published in different versions depending on where it's being published in the world, and it essentially investigates or looks into different areas or situations or things like that. It's also done reporting that directly relates to the church or how the church has been treated. Or issues that the church is interested in, or Scientologists are interested in. And as such, Freedom was doing quite a bit of reporting down there in Florida, in the Tampa area, in the Bay Area there, and decided to hire on some independent freelance investigative journalists to look into a lot of different issues, but also particularly to look into the St. Pete Times. This concept of an independent report about the reporting was born out of that. It actually came out of that. It was something that came out of us having contacted those different reporters, or reporters contacting us in response to our looking for reporters to hire for Freedom Magazine, and that was sort of the genesis of it, and then it evolved from there.
So these two particular reporters, they weren't doing original reporting as far as going out and finding out new things about the St. Petersburg Times. They were basically looking at the St. Petersburg Times coverage of the Church of Scientology and then making a determination in their professional judgment about whether, what was that content and was it fair and balanced. Is that a fair characterization of it?
Yeah, I mean, they were reviewing those stories that the St. Petersburg Times has been doing for the last year or so, and that was pretty much what they were doing. They were just looking over the reporting that they had done and assessing that and assessing its adherence to essentially just that, an independent review, something that that I've come to learn, and I've certainly seen over the years is a pretty common thing.
And, as you know, the St. Petersburg Times leadership has declined to cooperate with this review or answer any questions about it. Can they dish it out, but they can't take it?
Well, yeah, here's the thing is that they were notified about the report and that it was being worked on. It was very upfront from the outset that the journalists had been commissioned by the Church of Scientology to do the report. So the St. Pete Times knew that from the outset. But it was also made very clear that they were doing so fully independent. So the fact that they chose not to participate, I guess that's their call. Neil Brown has talked about, something about how the church is suing or threatening to sue or this kind of thing. The St. Petersburg Times is the only publication in the history of the Church of Scientology that has ever turned around and tried to sue the church. Or threatened to sue the church, I should say. So that's a new one, of a media outlet threatening to sue somebody and then continuing to report on them. So, I don't know what to say, but the fact is that I do think the St. Pete Times comes from the, can dish it out but can't take it school of thought, and that's all I have to say, with regards to that.
I'm not aware of the threat, their threat against this Church of Scientology. Can you talk a little bit more about that, or are you not at liberty to say anything about that?
No, I mean, I could just leave it at that. But I know that he's been bringing up the subject of lawsuits, and I think that's pretty disingenuous considering that they've threatened to sue the church. So it's.
Do you know why they're threatening to sue?
I think the bottom line is this: is that the St. Pete Times knows that they had serious deficiencies in their reporting. They know that they had an opportunity to interview Mr. Miscavige and the ecclesiastical leader of the church, and they went to press before the date that was set for that interview. They're now trying to rewrite history. They had agreed to the date. They knew exactly why that date was that date. It was a perfectly reasonable date. And considering that in 1998, when they interviewed Mr. Miscavige, the same two reporters from the St. Pete Times interviewed Mr. Miscavige in 1998, from the point where they contacted the church and requested the interview to the time that it went to press, 9 months went by. And that wasn't 9 months that the church added. It was just the timetable of how it ended up working out with the different travel that they did, people they talked to, their interview with Mr. Miscavige. And that was a front-page story profile on Mr. Miscavige in 1998. So considering they had already been in bed with their sources this time around for anywhere between 13 and 18 weeks, depending on where you put your pin on the calendar, before they went to before they even contacted the church and gave us an opportunity to respond. The fact that we needed a couple of weeks for them to be able to sit down with Mr. Miscavige, given his obligations internationally, certainly wasn't too much to ask. And it wasn't like these reporters didn't know him and didn't know that he keeps his word. And one of the reporters himself even said to me, "Yeah, I know Mr. Miscavige keeps his word." So, it's to now be trying to talk about, rewriting history and what the timetable on it was is pretty disingenuous.
The Washington Post said that you said the report was, quote, highly critical of the Times stories on the church. How would you characterize the report?
Well, I'm not really at liberty to discuss the report, but I think, I think that as a general rule, the St. Petersburg Times reporting has been commented on by the media by virtue of lack of comment, and the fact that others don't really see it as a story, because it's not really a story, because it's a lot of hearsay. They have sources who can only corroborate each other and whose stories are utterly denied by a much larger group of people. They can't produce any evidence to back up their claims, and no police reports, no civil suits, no medical records, no photographic evidence, nothing to back up what they're saying. And on top of that, you have sources who are accusing others of behavior they themselves engaged in, and of which they did not disclose to the St. Petersburg Times until we brought it to the St. Petersburg Times' attention. They had to then go back to their sources and say, is this true? At which point their sources admitted that they themselves had engaged in the same abuse they were accusing others of. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad to be working with sources for 13 to 18 weeks, and all of a sudden you find out that the exact thing they're accusing others of having done, that they themselves did, and you had to find it out from the people they're accusing of having done it. It's, that's not good. That's bad. That's bad reporting. That's not asking the right questions.
Does the Church of Scientology plan to release this report to the public?
No decision's been made on that. It wasn't even commissioned with the intention, particularly, of releasing it.